Hello, in this video today we're going to be continuing to pay attention right now here to Invest 94L and the possibilities of an East Coast impact here from that tropical system. We're going to continue to go over the National Hurricane Center as well as the latest model runs on Invest 94L. Also continuing to pay attention to Tropical Storm Humberto that has now formed out in the Atlantic yesterday, and we're going to continue to pay attention to Gabrielle as posing a threat to Europe. We also do have a marginal severe weather risk here for parts of the East Coast of the United States, so we'll dig deeper into that as well. So make sure if you do like the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and make sure to leave down any comments down below if you have any questions about any weather that is going on. So let's hop right into the video. So welcome back here into Caden's Weather Center. Today is September 25th, 2025. Continuing to pay attention to the tropics. That is going to be our main concern right now over here for the next couple of days, just because of what we're looking at here in the Atlantic right now. We actually might be having a landfalling tropical system here maybe in about a week. So we're going to continue to pay attention to that very, very closely. Let's take a look at what we're looking at currently around the United States. Well, we can clearly see, if you look at the central part of the United States, very, very quiet here that we can clearly see. We do have some rain showers and thunderstorms continuing on this morning here. This is going to be generally where our marginal risk is going to be here for parts of the Northeast. But then we also do have that front. This is where the cooler temperatures are coming down. So definitely that's why we see a lot more cooler temperatures this morning, as well as, no weather events going on. That front has really moved down to the south here, and that's bringing in some nice temperatures now into parts of Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi as well. But right now we do have a marginal risk that's expected to kind of play out over here in parts of the Northeast, stretching all the way up from maybe even South Carolina all the way up into parts of Maine. So we're going to dig deeper into that right now. So taking a look at this is the National Weather Service Prediction Center here, the Storm Prediction Center. We can see a marginal risk continues on over here in parts of Arizona, as well as stretching into New Mexico. And even into parts of Utah and Nevada. Very, very small area, but majority of the area is going to be in parts of Arizona here. But then we also continue to pay attention to central Georgia all the way over here into parts of Massachusetts. We're going to be seeing a little bit more of that marginal risk. That's going to be stretching really hundreds of miles here, where we're going to be seeing it kind of just ramp up as we head into later this evening. Are we expecting a slight weather risk? Probably not. Not going to be expecting any slight weather risk maybe, but it can't rule out a new possibility. There is a 2% tornado chance here stretching over here in the Northeast that you can see stretching from Massachusetts all the way down over here into Delaware, Maryland as well. We're going to continue to kind of pay attention to that, and even into the parts of the northeastern part of Virginia, we're going to be seeing a little bit more of a threat for tornadoes. Wind chances, there's a 5% chance here on both marginal regions here that we're going to continue to pay attention to, and then the hail region is just going to be on the west side. So the northeastern marginal risk, the East Coast is going to be dealing with tornadoes and wind, while this one's just really going to be dealing with some hail. So no matter what, there's some pretty big thunderstorms that are expected at this time. Later today, we're going to be seeing it as it heads into the overnight hours as well. So taking a look at the future radar, though, this kind of gives us a representation of what we could be expecting. Well, obviously over here in the next, couple hours, we're seeing, as we head into around this evening here, this is about 5 o'clock tonight, we're going to be seeing some of those thunderstorms really starting to kind of ramp up here in parts of New York and heading down over here into parts of New Jersey as well. We're going to be kind of continuing to pay attention to that. These storms will eventually move their way off over here to the north as we head into early tomorrow morning. So really the afternoon time could be our big concern here. But definitely Maine and possibly even more parts of New England, we could be seeing possibility here for some stronger storms as we head into the overnight hours. Majority of our tornado risk will kind of be later this evening, kind of maybe around 6 to 9 o'clock. We're going to be seeing that. But you can definitely see a little bit of line of thunderstorms stretching all the way from Washington, D.C., all the way up into eastern Pennsylvania here at around 9 to 10 o'clock tonight. Now taking a look here at the little bit more of a, spread out view, we can see here in the next 6 hours, we're expecting those storms to really start to ramp up here in that marginal risk, really, especially if you're heading, north of Baltimore. That's where we're going to be seeing a little bit more of that severe weather threat continuing on. We can see storms stretching all the way from, parts of Pennsylvania all the way down into Tennessee and even into Georgia. We're going to start to see really some big storms starting to really go east of Atlanta here, and that will make its way into South Carolina. So definitely some big impacts with some scattered showers and thunderstorms kind of heading into this, cold front boundary here, kind of stretching really all the way through New York City later this evening, heading all the way in through, you got Charlottesville, Roanoke, as well as going down here into Knoxville and Huntsville. We're going to be seeing that. Atlanta later today, and maybe even into the Carolinas as well. So let's jump over to the tropics, because this is obviously our main focus in today's video. We're going to continue to pay attention to this. We have Hurricane Gabrielle that's continuing on right now, moving off to the east there. We're seeing Tropical Storm Humberto is expected to get to a major hurricane, but now you have Invest 94L that's kind of just hanging out this morning, expected to possibly have two possible different outcomes here. Really, it could go out to sea, or it could possibly impact the east coast of the United States, something that we are still possibly watching here. So we're going to keep an eye on that very, very closely. But taking a look here at the National Hurricane Center and their forecast, well, we can obviously see Gabrielle is going to continue moving off to the east here and is moving at 32 miles an hour. Humberto moving northwest at 8 miles an hour, not moving very quickly here, 50-mile-an-hour tropical storm. Invest 94L, we could clearly see that we are expected a northern turn here as it gets closer to the east coast here of the United States, specifically Florida. We are definitely bringing, some heavy rainfall could be expected here for parts of the Bahamas. So regardless of the development in this area, the Bahamas are going to be getting some heavy rain. And already today, Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico are already getting some heavy rain. But eventually, we're expecting this to eventually turn up to the north. The big question is does it stay out to sea, or does it make its way inland here to the United States? Now, taking a look at the satellite picture for Invest 94, you can see it's not moving too quickly, but a lot of convection of thunderstorms continuing on just southeast here of the Dominican Republic. That is eventually going to make its way into the eastern part here of the Dominican Republic, and as well as parts of Puerto Rico, the western part of Puerto Rico. Rainfall chances are expected to continue to just rise as we see that. Taking a look at the Invest 94L models, we can see the low pressure center is just over Dominican Republic, so it gives it time to form, as it's not going to be staying over land, but definitely is expected to move off to that northwestward motion and then eventually gets pulled up to the north. Just as a couple hundred miles off the east coast of Florida, then will eventually make its turn into South Carolina and parts of maybe even North Carolina and Georgia still in play here. So really, we have this whole east coast here stretching from North Carolina all the way down into parts of Georgia, where we could be seeing some bigger impacts from this tropical system. Now, obviously, we know that the possibility for going out to sea is still at that chance, but we still are as we're seeing these little updates coming in, we're seeing more and more of agreement that we could be seeing a landfall here in the United States. So something to kind of pay attention to there. Now, the ensembles here that we're kind of looking at here, this is the NOAA ensemble guidance, the Eagle ensembles. We can clearly see, obviously, we know that low pressure is sitting right there. Gets pulled off to the west more, gets pulled up to the north. So go due north. You can see main operational runs are obviously in South Carolina, but you do have some that do bring it out to sea. So we still have a lot to kind of pay attention to with this tropical system. Now, taking a look at the probabilities here of a tropical depression, well, we can obviously see there's Humberto. That's obviously a pretty, that's already a tropical storm, so that's pretty good chances. That's going to get pulled off to the north here, possibly impacting Bermuda here in the future. But you can definitely see with this system right here, Invest 94L, it gets pulled up to the north. Chances do kind of go away as Humberto kind of passes off to its east. So something to kind of pay attention to closely with that. Now, the wind shear in picture, we can obviously see Humberto's right here. We can see that this storm's just going to head out to sea. We'll go through a little bit of wind shear, but not as it starts to move kind of near Bermuda. Then it will start to go in through some pretty rough shear later on in its lifetime. But then you take a look here at Invest 94L, that's kind of sitting just over the Dominican Republic, sitting in a relatively weak shear, not sitting in too much of shear. And as it goes up to the north, really no shear is in its way. We could have some wind shear that does come down with the trough a little bit. But that's, this storm's not going to be impacted here by a lot of wind shear, so that's not the best news. But taking a look at the water temperatures, also very, very warm waters that we're continuing to see right here. Just over the northern Dominican Republic, as well as over Cuba. We're going to be seeing this storm kind of head off to the west and get pulled up to the north here. And then we have the Carolinas, obviously, as we, see off the coast here of the Carolinas. We see cooler temperatures that what we're looking at there. Taking a look at the sea surface temperature anomalies, we're currently looking at, different scenarios at this time. We obviously see cooler temperatures of, below average of this time of year is right off the coast here of the Carolinas, as well as parts of the Northeast. But really warmer temperatures, kind of majority of its, lifetime as it gets pulled up to the north here, just off the east coast of Florida. Relatively, normal to above normal normal temperatures at this time for this tropical system. Now let's take a look at the GFS model run here. This is the 12Z, so fairly new here. We definitely are expecting something to form over here, possibly by the east part of the Bahamas. Gets pulled up to the north here. The GFS does bringing it into South Carolina. Now the earlier run, the 6Z, did bring it the same exact track into South Carolina, and as it moves into South Carolina, we could see a lot of rainfall continue, obviously in South Carolina, North Carolina, and even into parts of southern Virginia. We're going to continue to pay attention to that, and then it kind of makes a little bit of a loop around. That's going to bring a little bit more rainfall into the Georgia area, and possibly even into the Florida Panhandle. So something to kind of pay attention to with that. Now, obviously, Humberto is going to stay out to sea, but you kind of can see with the intensity, maybe a low-end Category 2 hurricane that we could be expecting here from the GFS model. The European model bringing a relatively weaker storm here into the Carolinas and a little bit more disorganized, but you could definitely still see as it heads in on September 30th, we're going to be seeing a lot of rainfall continuing on over here in parts of Virginia, all the way going down here into parts of South Carolina. And once again, the European does bring it a little bit more of a curve, more closer to the East Coast, which could bring still obviously big impacts for flooding potential here into South Carolina and Georgia as well. Taking a look at the rainfall threat, obviously the GFS bringing, pretty good amount of rainfall here into the South Carolina and Georgia area as well as North Carolina, but majority of that heaviest of rain will stay kind of off to the coast here, and Outer Banks definitely could possibly reach up to double digits in the inches of rain. Now, the big thing that I want to say is something that you want to continue to kind of pay attention to is obviously this is still too far out. The storm has even formed, so there's expected change in the forecast. The European model, what are we looking at this model run here for the rainfall potential? Heavy rainfall continuing on in parts of North Carolina and South Carolina, reaching up to maybe 10 inches of rain at times. Taking a look at these hurricane models, So taking a look here at the HWRF model, this is one of the hurricane models that the National Hurricane Center uses. We can see relatively, weak storm as it heads over here by the Bahamas. We could see a tropical storm maybe, and then really kind of just heads into North Carolina here according to the HWRF model. 969 millibar hurricane there, so maybe a high-end Category 2 could possibly make its way into the Carolinas. Obviously, this would bring, pretty interesting storm surge here to the North Carolina coast, but really this is just one model run there. The HWRF brings in a lot of rain here into the whole state of Virginia, so something to kind of pay attention to with that. HMON model bringing up a little bit of a different kind of scenario, a little bit more of a relatively weaker storm here, and brings it into the South Carolina coast, brings it into North Carolina, and then starts to relatively weak down here as we head into Virginia, as well as going into parts of Western Virginia here, bringing it more on a westward kind of track here, so that won't bring as much rain here to the Virginia, but bring it more to West Virginia. But obviously, once again, we're too far out to know exactly everything at this time. But if you do have any questions, make sure to leave it down in the comments about, Invest 94L or Tropical Storm Humberto or any severe weather event that is continuing on. Make sure to follow my X page down in the description down below as well for more frequent updates here on the tropics, as well as the severe weather threat that's continuing on. And now, since we're heading into winter, even winter storms now in the future here. But thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Please make sure you stay safe out there. Please make sure you're following the National Weather Service and the National Hurricane Center. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Stay safe, and bye-bye.